Christmas Advent calendar. Christmas Advent. What's it called? Candle. Thank you. And I've also got this. This is a box for those of you that can see it. It's just a tin. It's a Christmas sort of design on it, and it was given. It's the best gift, the best Christmas gift I've ever had. It was given to me by Sally, who's now my wife, on Christmas Eve, 1992, about 11:25 p.m. at night. We had a Christmas twilight service then in the church, and I'd been writing to Sally. I'd asked her out. We were having our first date on the 31st of December of that year. So before our first date, she gave me this for Christmas, and it was full of her homemade tablet, which I discovered when I got home and realised that, well, this is a good thing. But I didn't know that it was symbolic, and it's still with me. Comes out every Christmas. 27 years later, 28, 29 years later, I didn't know, but there was a lot of love and trust that is in this box, symbolised in this box. There was an I will in this box I didn't know about, and there was an I do. There's two children that came along in this box, symbolised in this box. This has started a giving and a life and a love that I love to remember and bring out every year and just celebrate. And what I did know, though, somehow, was that there was something bigger going on. And it wasn't just about me and my future wife, and I knew something was going on in Sally's life and heart. I knew there was something going on just in the greater realms. I felt like God was in this relationship, and this gift symbolised it. It gave me confidence to go forward in a relationship, that it wasn't just about how much I could love Sally, how much I could look after her, how much I could deal with the difficulties and challenges and all these things that life bring along, relationships bring to the fore. But because something bigger was going on, it just gave me hope. And there's some, it started something in me, and taking my life in my hands, I'm going to start a fire here. I'm going to light my Advent calendar. Advent candle. Right. But there was no doubt that this sparked something in my heart. And it's just the best gift ever. So thank you, Sally, for that and everything. The wonderful story of Jesus' birth, the first Christmas, is recounted in two of the four Gospels, in Matthew and in Luke. And I'm so grateful that there's a record of these days, 2,000 or so years ago, when something huge was going on. And there's great characters in this story. We just flip to the first slide, thanks. Next slide, thanks, Ruben. There's just amazing stories, and I want you to hear it and refresh your spirit. And over the next few weeks, I encourage you to read Luke and Matthew and the accounts, and read it with faith, read it with hope, read it with the knowledge that it is the truth, that it is factual evidence recorded by people who wanted to tell this good news. And it recounts the story, for example, of Zechariah, who was a priest in the ancient Jewish tradition, and who was utterly gobsmacked by the appearance of an angel who spoke to him and said, "Zechariah, you're going to have a son." And they'd been waiting and trying with his wife Elizabeth for years and years and years, decades possibly, and they were well beyond it. And when Zechariah heard this, it says in Luke 1 verse 12, when Zechariah saw the angel, he was startled and gripped with fear. And when the angel spoke to him and told him this news, he had the reaction many of us might have, is, how will this happen? And he was struck dumb. He was so confounded not by just the prospect of having his own son, but by the promise that the angel was saying that this would be the fulfillment of an ancient prophecy from the Jewish prophets, that his son would be the herald of the Saviour. And he became John the Baptist, this promised son, and he was struck dumb. And many of us are struck dumb by good news. We're surprised by incredible news. We don't really trust news if it's too good, do we? It's just too good to be true, we might say. And so it was with Zechariah. But eventually, when the child, when his wife conceived and it was born, he said his name is John. The first words he spoke since he was struck down, and his step of faith showed that he understood that there was something bigger going on than just him and his wife Elizabeth. So exciting. Mary, of course, confronted by the angel Gabriel, completely surprised and struck with fear. The angel said, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God." And not surprisingly, I don't know what I would say to somebody who was floating 3 feet above the ground and was big and white. I would be cautious. Mary was, how will this be? And the angel Gabriel explained, and she responded, "I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled." She quickly got it, that this was not just about her. There was something bigger going on, and the Messiah, the promise of the Messiah, that this is too good news, that how could she carry the Lord's promised one? But yes, it was true. And I believe she could respond in that way, because that gift of hope, that gift of light, that gift of faith, that flame that flickered in her when the angel spoke, started to say, it's not just about you, there's something bigger going on. And of course, Joseph, her fiance, was also quite aghast at this prospect. It was not good news for him when his girlfriend came along and said, "I'm pregnant." And he said, "Well, it wasn't me." And he decided to not embarrass her or disgrace her, to divorce her quietly. And then an angel appeared in a dream, a supernatural dream, and told him it was okay, that this was not just, in so many words, about him, but there's something bigger going on. And he responded in faith and took Mary on. And I'm so glad he did. I knew that he didn't fear that good news and what it might mean. He didn't fear disappointment. He didn't fear, surely this can't be true. He had the courage to face the shame and the ridicule and the questioning of his family and friends. But he was bold, and he responded, because that light that was sparked by the angel, which is what Christmas does in us. The news and the good news sparks something of light and hope. The innkeeper in the nativity story, you're familiar with these characters, I'm sure, but we never meet him actually, if you read it. We never meet the innkeeper. All we know is that there was no room, and they had to go in a stable. And Mary and Joseph gave Mary gave birth in a stable. But the innkeeper, he wasn't too enamored with the good news, just another hassle, just another problem. But at least he responded to say, "Yeah, well, there's some room I've got." The shepherds, my favourite, the shepherds. And I read this often, and I read it, but there's something of these words, greater, powerful. They make the hairs on the back of my neck stand up somehow. There's these words just symbolize so much. And there are shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. And suddenly, good news that was too good to be true is announced to them. The angels, still floating 3 feet above the ground, come to them and say these words: today in Bethlehem, I bring you good news that a Saviour has been born to you, the Messiah, that will cause great joy for all the people. And again, that flame that suddenly appeared in their hearts, they responded by saying, okay, let's go see. And they went and they responded, and somehow that hope that was too good to be true, that there was a Messiah coming for their salvation. How incredible this promise. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. And here we are, 2021 years or whatever it might be later, hearing this good news and believing it, I hope. Because this is too good to be true, unless that spark of hope and light and that recognition that there's something more going on. There's something bigger going on at Christmas than just all the tinsel and the tap and everything like that. There is something real and hopeful. The shepherds are my favourite. Don't you just love it? Don't you just love good news? It's too good to be true, but you find out that it is. I couldn't believe I got that tin from Sally. I was not too embarrassed. I had my own little gift. I had a mixtape. Remember them cassette tapes? My favourite tracks were. She still got it. Never plays it. Bless her heart. But on her ring, on her finger, is the words of a line from one of the songs that I put in it. True companion. I did not know what I was getting into, but I knew there was something bigger going on. How beautiful God is, and how exciting. But that's the good news about Christmas. And there's bad news. Are you ready for some bad news about Christmas? Next slide. This isn't just bad news, this is utterly shocking news. And I'm glad this is not Christmas Eve, because it feels a bit like Christmas Eve. We're here on Saturday night, but it's not. We never talk about this at Christmas Eve, and we possibly shouldn't, but you would need to hear this tonight. You need to be ready for this. But the problem with good news is we're just not. We know that there's disappointment coming. If we accept and trust good news, it's like, well, I'm going to be disappointed. I'm going to look a fool. I'm going to be foolish. This isn't going to come to pass. And most of all, I'm going to be disappointed. And to some extent, this is true. Even in the Christmas story, there's bad news. The worst possible news we heard about Aaron tonight, reminding us of the profounder over the road and another story of a child dying. Herod responds too late, but decides to take action against this beautiful Saviour. When Herod, written in Matthew 2:16, realised that he'd been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated. So he sent soldiers with orders to slaughter every baby boy 2 years old and younger in Bethlehem and throughout the surrounding countryside, based on the time frame he was given from interrogating the wise men. You may respond, and many have, to say, how could God be good? How could God sanction this? How could God allow this? And even cause this? I can't answer that question. I certainly can't answer it for those parents. Some of you know what that's like. I do not know that grief. It's shocking. Christmas, to me, demonstrates that the good news had to come. Because we know that this evil is still going on today. It's still perpetuating today. Evil is evident in our world. And it actually helps us understand why the Messiah had to come. This was the problem he came to deal with. The problem of evil, the problem that there was darkness in the world, and there's an enemy and a force of evil that wants to just snuff out the light that we hold in our hearts and we hope in heaven for. He tried to snuff out the Messiah, and he missed. He was too late. He tried again on Calvary, and it looked like he met his mark. But we know he had missed it, and what was intended for evil resulted in good. And the miracle of Christmas is, it is no longer for anybody listening here tonight. You know it's just not about tinsel and nice times. It's about defeating evil. It's about overcoming fear. It's about dealing with depression. It's about dealing with all the problems of the world. It's about dealing with sickness. It's about dealing with health, because Jesus came, and that is good news that you may think is too good to be true. But this is why I want to celebrate Christmas this year like never before, because there's just, the world is full of bad news, and we just don't want to trust, we don't want to hope, we don't want to think what's going to happen next, we don't know what's coming, we don't know where it's going. But the good news of Christmas is that Jesus came, and he gave us the hope of victory, ultimately better than anything we could possibly ever imagine. Hope that the world cannot begin to deliver. Hope that even we can offer each other. It's hope that is completely sure, completely certain that this was God coming to deal with evil for once and for all, and he's coming back to finish the job. And Jesus will return in glory, and that is what we're celebrating and thinking about as well. It is good news and great joy for all the people beyond what we can even imagine. Let's applaud the Lord our God. So this Christmas, last slide. What should we do in response to this amazing? Like Zechariah, we might be struck dumb at the moment for a little while, or we might, like Mary, quickly be saying, yep, I'm up for this, whatever it is. I am going to believe this good news. I'm going to trust this good news. I'm going to hope in this good news. I'm going to put my hope in this good news. Imagine if we started doing that even more and even greater, and more people were doing that, and they are. And people, I was delighted to meet with some of my great friends who've been coming to the church recently, and just hearing their stories and what's going on in their lives. Ian and Craig here, and Phil and Yvonne and Dave Arnott and Gail, just hearing the stories of what God has been doing in their life, and God is on the move, and God is on the move in our lives here, and it's exciting, and we're knowing and we're thinking that there's something bigger going on, and it's not just about us. So this Christmas, let's choose the good news that we're hearing. Choose not to give in to fear and worry and anxiety and what's going to happen tomorrow with COVID, and what can I plan, what can I do, and let's not worry overly about our kids and our lives, because even our lives are not just about us. There's something bigger going on in your lives and our lives, because Jesus is coming, and Christmas can come in our hearts every single day, because that's the promise of the Messiah. The good news is worth believing and can be trusted. The most radical disciple conversion, Paul, who wrote much of the New Testament, many of you know, writes in Corinthians something incredible. He writes in 2 Corinthians 2, verses 14-15, he says, God always makes his grace visible in Christ, who includes us as partners of his endless triumph. This is the Passion Translation. It's fantastic. It's very helpful. But just hear these words. God always makes his grace visible in Christ, who includes us as partners of his endless triumph. Paul believed the good news, turned from being an enemy of the gospel and a perpetrator of bad news, a son of Herod in many ways, trying to snuff out the church. He turned around and he writes, he goes on, through our yielded lives, he spreads the fragrance of the knowledge of God wherever we go. We have become the unmistakable aroma of the victory of the Anointed One to God, a perfume of life to those being saved and the odour of death to those who are perishing. So I encourage you and implore you this Christmas, carry the fragrance of the good news. I don't know. Every time you put it on, yes, there's some in my can. Is there any in your can? You smell amazing when you receive the hope of Christ in your hearts and believe it and take it out. So, listen, let's take the aroma of good news with us wherever we go this Christmas. How about that? Wouldn't that be great? Let's believe and share our testimonies, share our hope, and encourage people who are just devastated by defeat and darkness. Who else can tell them that actually there is really good news for them? The story last week was incredible. Testimony of Sharon, and she said something incredible about, I think she accepted that it was possible her husband Mark may not make it, but then the Holy Spirit lit a flame in her and spoke to her and said, you're not saying goodbye yet. And she, with that confidence, believed against all odds, against the enemy, against the liar and the snuffer-outer. And Jimmy encouraged us not to be miffers last Sunday. Well, I'm encouraging you not to be a snuffer of good news this Christmas. Don't discourage. Don't bring doubt. Don't bring despair. Don't bring anxieties. But look and seek. And my kids, when they were getting older, teenagers, they used to, do you smell it? Smell Christmas. It's coming. I smell it, and I want us, like the scripture says, to smell like Christmas. Start sniffing at Christmas wherever you go. Start sniffing it in the songs you hear. Start sniffing it in the stories you read, the films you watch, the people you talk to. Start sniffing it in the Bible. I encourage you, be a sniffer. I'm not a snuffer. I'm not as good at Jimmy. It's not bad, come on. Is it not bad? Be a sniffer, not a snuffer? Come on. Come on. Choose to seek Him like the wise men. I love the wise men, because they were the ones who had come a long way and responded in joy. And they brought gifts, and they brought hope, and they, it says, rejoiced when they saw the star coming over the inn, and they knew that good news was here. So like the wise men, choose to praise Him, choose to seek Him, however long it takes. Choose to trust Him and bring your gifts of hope. What's in your tin? What can you give? A yielded life, Paul says, that spreads the fragrance of the knowledge of God everywhere we go. We're going to just, we've got a little bit of time. I need to show you this video. This is the nativity story, and I don't think we're getting this on live stream, unfortunately, but the links might be up there if they were. So this is the nativity story of 2006, not the film The Nativity. It's starting at the end, so it's a spoiler alert, but you know it. This is just to make sure you get the Christmas spirit. I watch this every year. I just can't get enough of it. The wise men are just turning up, and then it finishes with Mary rejoicing, quoting the Magnificat. her praise to God as to what happened. So let's sit back and enjoy